Let's talk about how to calculate the exterior angle measurements of a polygon. Remember that an exterior angle is formed by extending one of the sides of the shape, so something like each of these numbered angles, those are all exterior angles, and for every polygon, the sum of those exterior angles will always be equal to 360 degrees. But why? Well, let's explore. Let's just take a couple of simple figures like a triangle or a square. First, let's draw the exterior angles by extending each of the sides. Now, to make things simple, let's just assume that these are all regular figures. They definitely don't have to be. They could be any kind of a triangle or any kind of a quadrilateral or octagon or whatever you want to work with. But to make things simple, let's just pretend like all of these are regular. So that would mean that for this triangle, all of those angles would be equal to 60 degrees. And that would mean that each of their exterior angles would be 120 degrees, right? Because an exterior angle forms a linear pair with its adjacent interior angle. So what do I add to 60 to get to 180? That'd be 120. So each of my exterior angle measurements, I've got 3 120s, and 3 times 120 is that magical answer of 360. Okay, well that's just one case. Let's see if it holds true for a four-sided figure. So draw each of our exterior angle measurements. Again, let's pretend like this is regular, so all 4 of these angles are 90. It definitely doesn't have to be a regular polygon, it's just easier to talk about if they are. So if each of those measurements are 90, then each of the exterior angles have to be 90 as well, right? Because 90 and 90 is 180. So I've got 4 exterior angles that each measure 90 degrees, and 4 times 90, is that 360 answer again. Well, let's kick it up a notch. Let's talk about an octagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. Let's draw each of our exterior angle measurements. But what are my interior angle measurements? Well, we learned how to do that in the previous lesson, that if you want to figure out the sum of the interior angle measures, you use the number of sides that it has, subtract 2 from that, and multiply it times 180. So 8 minus 2 is 6, 6 times 180 is 1080. And since it's regular, we can just divide that total sum of the interior angle measures by the number of sides that it has. So 1080 divided by 8, each of those angle measures must be 135 degrees. Which means that each of my exterior angle measurements must be 45 degrees, because that's what I would add to 135 to get to an answer of 180. So I have 8 exterior angles, they all equal 45, and 8 times 45, again, is that 360 degree angle measure. So what's going on here? Why does this work this way? Well, let's put our two formulas together. The sum of the interior angle measurements, if it has n sides, is equal to n minus 2 times 180. That's the formula that we derived in the previous lesson. That gives us the total sum of all of the angles inside of the shape. And we just explored how to figure out the exterior angle measurements. They each form a linear pair with its adjacent interior angle. And there's going to end up being n linear pairs whenever you draw each of your exterior angles. For example, in this 8-sided figure, we ended up with 8 linear pairs from each of the exterior angles that we drew. So I could say that each of these adds up to 180, and there's 8 of them. So I would say 8 times 180 gives me that total measure of all of my linear pairs put together. So that would be 180 n degrees total from our linear pairs. But I don't want the entire linear pair, I just want the exterior angle part of that linear pair. Well, the interior angle part is given by this formula right here. That's the sum of the interior angles, and I don't want the interior angles, so I'm going to subtract n minus 2 times 180 from the 180n, which is the total of all of our linear pairs. So the sum of the exterior angles would have to be all of the linear pairs minus their interior angles, and that would leave us with just the exterior angles. So if I distribute that 180, these 180n's end up canceling, so I get 360 degrees every time, regardless of how many sides there are. Pretty cool, huh? So basically what that says is, no matter what shape I give you, here's a pentagon, you could draw all of your exterior angle measurements and add all of them up, and you know it's going to equal 360. So if you wanted to figure out a missing angle measurement, you know you can just add up all of those angles and set it equal to 360. So that missing angle measure would have to be 42 degrees. And that's all you need to know about exterior angle measurements of polygons. For the rest of the unit, we're going to be talking about quadrilaterals in particular. And in our next lesson, we'll be focusing on parallelograms.